So we have an interesting gospel passage there, and I'm actually going to speak on the first reading instead. If you'd like to hear about this gospel passage, this was the homily I did for Christmas. And so it's a powerful imagery of the light. And this gospel, this first part of the Gospel of John, instead of just repeating kind of the essence of that, you can see our my homily on Christmas Day. That is this exact same reading. So, Father, then what are you going to talk about? The first reading. And that's because it mentions the Antichrist. And I wanted to point out something that we don't usually think about regarding the Antichrist. Now, we know the basics. He will be fully human. He's not Satan. He's not the devil incarnate. The devil cannot become incarnate. Only God can become incarnate. He doesn't have that power. But it is believed he will be possessed by the evil one. Now, the church fathers described him as being persuasive, powerful, probably from a Jewish background. Interesting. Now, the term Antichrist is mentioned only a few times in the Bible, and it is used in both singular and plural form, which is very interesting. Now, Father, why are you talking about the Antichrist today? Well, first of all, it's in the reading. Secondly, it's what comes with the end times. And as we approach each new calendar year in Advent, we talk about these end times. And now we're into the Christmas season. It still is kind of flowing into it. Now, the fact is that there's singular and plural Antichrist. We call them capital A Antichrist and little a Antichrist. The little a Antichrists are all those ones who've come before, like Nero, Hitler, Stalin. But then the capital A Antichrist is yet to come. This is the main one. So it implies that they're both a particular Antichrist and preceding Antichrists. Now, this reading that Andrew just did for us is from the first letter of John, chapter 2. verse 18 and 19 specifically. This passage appears to speak of this major individual Antichrist, capital A, as well as many minor individual Antichrists, little a, who apparently are apostates, Christians that left. Now, do we all know these people? I'm going to give you a different view of the Antichrist because we keep thinking it's a one particular person that is evil, satanic, but the true Antichrists, the little a, the plural, are walking amongst us. And these are the ones who the church fathers say have rejected Christ's church. That's who these Antichrists are. And we have them walking amongst us. And in fact, Paul says they went out from us. He says it right here. He says that they went out. They were not really of our number. If they had been, they would have remained with us. But their desertion shows that none of them was of our number. They went out from us. How many fallen away Catholics do we know? Many. And this is consistent with the apostate nature of these little a Antichrists, denying Christ through his church. Well, I don't deny Jesus. I don't deny Jesus. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. By denying Christ's church, you are implicitly denying Christ. Needless to say, it's denying Christ. The church fathers understood Antichrist to be, in the big sense, the capital A political ruler who would oppose the church, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, and then demand to be worshiped as a god. Now, in Matthew 24, 15 through 27, it says there will be false Christs that will lead even the elect astray. So let's go to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 675. Before Christ's second coming, the church must pass through a final trial that will shake the faith of many believers. The persecution that accompanies her pilgrimage on earth will unveil the mystery of iniquity in the form of religious deception, offering men an apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. This is exactly what we're seeing right now. People are not baptizing their babies. Catholics themselves are not even going to Mass anymore. We are not receiving the sacraments, but we're finding the answer to all our problems through the craziest of means. All the self-help stuff, it's not where the answer lies. It's not in ourselves. The answer to our problems is only from God. And it says the supreme religious deception is that of the Antichrist, a pseudo-messianism, meaning a false Messiah, by which man glorifies himself in place of God and of his Messiah come in the flesh. It's exactly what's happening. Now, let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2:3. This describes the Antichrist, even though it doesn't use the word Antichrist. I think it's the son of perdition. As a person who will have all the power and deception of the devil himself. He will attempt to deceive people into believing what he is not, meaning good. Ultimately, he will claim himself to be God, and only the coming of Christ himself will stop him. Christ will kill him, but many will fall away before. You know, St. John, who wrote this letter in his day, he was combating a lot of the early Gnostics that were promoting their own way of salvation rather than the way of the church. So John here is already battling those who are saying you don't need the church. This is important. Now, in the same context, John teaches us something that we don't realize about the spirit of the Antichrist. He said there seems to be a connection between the spirit of the Antichrist and rejecting God's authority on earth, the church. Have you ever thought that the actual Antichrist amongst us are those who reject Christ through his church? I don't need the church. I don't go to church. This is a false church. That is the spirit of the Antichrist. Few people know this. The spirit that basically says, I know more than God's apostolic authority on earth. I know better. I get these comments on YouTube all day long, telling me that I do not know what I'm talking about, that this is not how it is this way. It's not me. I am only giving you the teaching of the church. None of this is from me. This is the teaching of Christ through his church. And if you reject that church, you reject Christ. It has nothing to do with some of the stupid things that some of us priests or bishops or cardinals have done. It has nothing to do with that. That is in her human nature. The church will mess up. It's in her divine nature that we must remain aboard. Like, this is Noah's Ark. You've heard me say it before. The church is like Noah's Ark. Don't jump off. It gets smelly, it gets stinky, but don't jump off. You're going to drown. And so, those who reject that authority of God through his church, those sent by God with his authority, represent the same spirit of the Antichrist that says, no, I do it my way. I don't need some church. I don't need some priest. That's the spirit of the Antichrist. And so that is what John is warning against. He says, whoever knows God listens to us And he who is not of God does not listen to us. Who are us? The church. We must remain in union with the Father, with God the Son, Jesus Christ, and with the apostolic authority that God himself established on earth, our one holy Catholic and apostolic church, which alone possesses full apostolic authority. People think I'm too uncharitable when I respond in those comments. When people will write a long litany that this is false and nothing that the church teaches is true. And my question to them is always, by what authority do you speak? You declare that Mary was just a vessel. She was full of sin. She had absolutely no role in salvation history. My answer to you is, by what authority do you speak? Because the authority given by God to his church disagrees with you. But you are going to declare you know better than the authority established by Jesus Christ. This is the spirit of the Antichrist. This is what nobody talks about. And that's how serious it is. In 1 Timothy 3:15, Jesus called the church the pillar and foundation of the truth. He established the chair of the papacy, placed Peter upon it in 16:19 of Matthew 16:18. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 18, Jesus said, he is the head of the body, which is his church. So contrary to common belief, the church is not man-made. The church is God-made. We see that in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. What you hear from me, entrust to faithful men, who will be able to teach others also. This is how Christ set it up. Who are we to tell him he is wrong? So to finish, Fulton Sheen, speaking of the Antichrist, described who the Antichrist will be. And he says it will be a false church. It will be a worldly, ecumenical, and global church. Isn't that interesting? What are we seeing happening right now? This attempt for worldly, ecumenical, and global. It will be, Fulton Sheen said, a loose federation of churches and religions forming some type of global association. Interesting. He said the logic is, if there's no heaven, there's no hell. And if there's no hell, then there is no sin. And if there is no sin, then there is no judge. And if there is no judgment, then I declare what is evil is good and what good is evil. That's exactly what we're seeing. So, as I said, to finish, in the early 19th century, there was a blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. And she saw and said, when the time of the reign of the Antichrist is near, a false religion will appear, which will be opposed to the unity of God and his true church. This will cause the greatest schism the world has ever known. The nearer the time of the end, the more the darkness of Satan will spread on earth. The greater will be the number of children of corruption, and the number of the just will correspondingly diminish. There will be just but a tiny remnant. Ladies and gentlemen, that is us, or we wouldn't be here today. We are that remnant. How many have fallen away? This is what the warning of of John, of Fulton Sheen, of Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. She said he will come in a last-ditch effort to be idolized and to bring down mankind through creaturely worship. Again, what we're seeing. But hope remains. There was another blessed, Anna Maria Taigi, talked about the 3 days of darkness, but she said whole nations will finally come and will join the church shortly before the reign of the Antichrist. The conversions will be amazing. We're starting to see that. There shall be innumerable conversions of heretics who will return to the bosom of the church. And she even mentioned special things that will happen in Russia, England, and from what I can tell, Ireland. You have seen how much we are focused as Marians on England right now, how much my heart is in Ireland, and how many of you believe that Russia, it plays an important role. And so what the Antichrist represents is not some final standoff between good and evil, and that's not what we think it is, with some unknown outcome. No. The Antichrist has no chance of winning. None. He remains subject to God despite his rejection of God. Our faith teaches that God has already defeated evil. So then, Father, what are we doing? If God wins, let's just enjoy our time. There's nothing we can do. Au contraire. Our job is to limit the casualties. You've heard me say so many times, the Allies in World War II knew they were winning the war by 1943. But the war raged much longer beyond spring of 1943. And there were many casualties. Many died after 1943, even though they knew they were going to win the war. We know God wins. We know evil is defeated. But what is our job is to limit the number of souls who are lost between now and the second coming of Christ. And they're all around us. And those who willfully reject Christ through his church are the spirit of the Antichrist, whether they know it or not. So what is your job? To educate, teach, and most of all, live by example so that they can come back to God. As I said, it's through the church. As I said, the church is like Noah's Ark. It's even shaped like an ark. And as I said, the animals make it smelly and dirty. And you're going to want to jump off. But again, don't. Because when we do that, we will drown. The church is imperfect in her human nature. She is perfect in her divine nature. So let us not abandon the church. Father, I'm tired of the scandal. I'm tired of the mistakes it does. Yeah, we all are. But we don't leave Jesus because of Judas. We've had some Judases and priests and bishops and cardinals, but we will never leave Jesus because of Judas. So while you maybe have never heard the Antichrist described in this way, this is the way described by John, by the church fathers, by Bishop Fulton Sheen, by the Catechism, and now you have heard it. So what are we going to do about it? Pray and live by example. God bless you.